right, folks, thanks for joining us today. So if you remember about a year and 1 month ago precisely, we did the Metalcloak skid plate install video for our JL, and that'll be either linked right here or here. We put that skid plate system on, been running it for about a year. We're gonna go through a full detailed comparison between that system and the system we're getting ready to put on, which is the Rusty's off-road system. We're gonna talk about size differences, pros and cons, different design characteristics that both companies put into this system, weight differences. We're gonna really do a very, very detailed comparison between these two. We're gonna talk about what we do and don't like about the Metalcloak that we've actually been running for a year and beating up. And then we're gonna install this and show you how removing one system and installing the other system, like the pros and cons of really what you're gonna gain or not gain. We haven't run this Rusty system yet, so it'll be kind of neat to see really what we're gonna come up against and what we're gonna find here. So follow along. So some of you may ask, why are we taking off a 1-year-old expensive skid plate system to put on a new brand system? When I bought our JL, only with the intention of just trying product. I wanted to put different brands on there. I'd like to try everything. So we've done 10 lift kits. We've done multiple tire wheel combinations. We've changed out multiple different bumper systems. We've been doing all sorts of different things to our axles, playing with different products. It's nice to be able to use this as a platform to test things and test products before we ever sell anything to our customers. Or sort of one of my customers comes in the door and they're like, hey, we want to run brand A for a certain product. We can say, well, we did that, and here's the problem you're going to run into. And when you start mixing other brand of products together, you'll start coming up with some compatibility issues. So we're not having any issues with the Metalcloak, and this video will not be bad-mouthing Metalcloak by any means, but we're just going to try something different. So that's why we're doing what we're doing. That's why we're constantly shooting the same Jeep with different product, because we're like testing it. And when we put the product on there, we go test the crap out of it. In no way, shape, or form are any of these products free. I pay for them. Yes, I get my shop discount, of course, but nothing is free. We pay for the product. We test it. I'm going to take the Metalcloak skid plate system off. One of my customers is going to come buy it from me. I've already got it sold, so I don't really lose money doing it, but I'm not making money at these. These aren't free product. We're not getting kickbacks from anybody. I love this part of my job. I love testing crap. I like taking something off and going, it's a piece of crap, and I'll throw it away. I won't even sell it. We've actually shot video for a product that we absolutely hated. We never even put the video out there because we don't want to badmouth people at the same time. We're not in the business of badmouthing anybody. If I don't like their product, I just won't sell it. So not everything I do works out. Sometimes we put a few products on here that were unbelievably horrible. And that's part of the game, right? I don't even get mad about that. That's fun for me. I enjoy that. What we're going to do now is we're going to unbox this skid plate system. So with the Rusty skid plate system, we're going to find in these packages, we're going to find a gas tank skid, we're going to find an engine skid, a transfer case skid, and a resonator skid. So we're going to unbox every one of these. We're going to kind of lay them out and just see what all we get out of these boxes. I've never seen this actually in person yet. So I'm cutting the box so that way I can lay it all on the ground on the box. I know we're going to scratch them, but I just don't want to scratch them yet. Voila, perfect to sit the skid plate on. So we got a box of stuff here. Let's see what's in this box. What do we got here? Got stuff. Ooh, look at that. Machined washers to keep the bolt heads flat. We got some bracketry. And more bracketry. All right. So that was the gas tank skid plate. That's a pretty hefty son of a gun there. Here shortly, we'll start discussing some of the design side of what Rusty's is doing with his skid system. It'd be really neat when we get the other system off and we can really sit them side by side, you know. Be interesting to see which one we think is better, or how they compare even. Maybe there is no better. Maybe it's just different. All right, so this is the TK skid. And it looks like we got us a new cross member in here of some fashion. Tell you what, he takes a lot of pride in his product and powder coat because there's nobody that packages product like he does. So in this box, we've got us a cross member. Very nicely, intricately built cross member. We've got more of the flush mount washers. Because what's going to happen is that bolt's going to go in there. There, we'll show you. This bolt's going to go inside this washer. So when you bolt this up, rocks and trees and stuff won't catch the head of the bolt. They'll actually kind of like ramp over that. Pretty cool setup. Man, that's a big piece of steel. All right, so next we got the gas tank T-case unboxed, skid plate unboxed. This is the exhaust resonator skid plate, which on our Jeep, the exhaust resonator is gone. We have just exhaust there now. That's where the muffler is. So we have a different system on there. So this may actually be very beneficial for us and allow us to have some protection for our muffler. Comes with some bracketry and a nice heavy-duty skid plate. So I'm curious to see how that's going to fit with our new exhaust, but I think really if it does fit appropriately, and like I hope it does, it'll actually give us some protection for the muffler that we've never actually really had much. So our muffler's always been a little bit vulnerable because of the different exhaust we put on there. Well, if this works like I'm hoping it does, that'd be kind of a neat little feature. If you're still running the stock exhaust, this will protect your resonator, which is backed by the transfer case cross member area. Comes with some bracketry and hardware typical. It's all nylon nuts, so you don't have to worry about your hardware coming loose, rattling down the trails. So there is the resonator skid plate. Next, we've got the engine skid plate. So now we're gonna cut and unbox this. Let's see what this looks like. A whole bunch of hardware. Whole bunch of hardware. And bracketry. Holy crap. This one has a lot more pieces. It's like Legos for adults. So this is the engine skid plate. Let's sit this up here. It's got a whole bunch of hardware that comes with it. There is a drain plug area. So this is where your oil drain is going to be. You'll have to take these 3 access bolts out. Once you take those 3 access bolts out, that'll allow you to get to your oil drain. So that's nice and protected. And we'll compare that to the other system that we have. See how that compares. And he's got some hardware here. These are probably going to be the brackets that go up towards the engine to actually hold this system. They come powder coated with hardware already on there, so you're not trying to figure out where the heck everything goes. We've got more of those really fancy washers that will keep our bolts protected and make it so you don't get hung up on those on the trail. And then we got more bracketry. I won't lie, I don't even know where these go. We're gonna find out though. Everything powder coated, hardware already put on. Pretty awesome. so what we're going to do here, folks, is we're going to take some measurements of the Metalcloak skid plate system, so when we put the Rusty's skid plate system on, we can see what the difference is in clearance underneath the vehicle. Now, these are just numbers for my Jeep. Depending on how much lift you have on your Jeep, what size tires you're running, your measurements will be different, but no matter what system, like suspension system, tire wheel combination you're running, the difference is going to be the same. So if figuratively, if I have 20 inches with one and 22 with the other, you're going to have a 2-inch difference as well, just to be a different number. So with the Metalcloak gas tank skid plate, we are roughly about 16 inches, ballpark. Just depends on where you measure. If you measure towards the back a little bit, you're going to have like 16 and a quarter. Well, we're just going to call it 16 to be even. And if we go to the lowest place on the gas or the engine skid plate, the lowest place on that, which is right in here, is like 16 and a half. We got about 16 on the gas tank skid, 16 and a half on the engine. That's the clearance we have with the Metalcloak system. So let's get this off and see what we got when we can change out to the other system. So let's talk about the Metalcloak skid plate system that we've been running for a year. How's it held up? How's it done? So honestly, I've always just forgot it's there. It does its job. It does it well. We've landed on a bunch of rocks, logs, all sorts of things. We've done some damage, but we expect that, right? That's what we want to do, some damage to it. Otherwise, you're not using your Jeep and you should leave them all. So we do have some denting right here. We've pushed it up a little bit. It's just barely touching the exhaust. Now I will say, when we put this big dent in it and we hit, it rattled my teeth. It was a pretty darn hard hit. So not surprised that happened. I think it would have happened with any skid plate probably on the market. So we did put a big, huge dent in it here. It's just barely touching the exhaust. We'll show you that in a second. And then we hit really hard over here once, and it's got like this little wing that tries to protect the downpipe for your exhaust. And it bent that up, and it's touching as well. That I actually can feel a smidge of a vibration in the floor because it just kind of resonates through the whole vehicle. You can probably get in there and heat that up a little bit, bend it back down. That was a pretty darn hard hit too. This does have captured washers, so that was a nice design characteristic of their system. We got a bunch of dents and scratches, but you know, just typical skid plate use. We've rolled some edges. You can tell we've hit some pretty big rocks with it. The TK skid has some pretty big gouges, but it's retained its full shape. It really has. Can't really complain about how it's held up as far as all of this. Like I said, a couple big hits. We're kind of touching the exhaust a little bit. But considering what we've done to it, I think overall it's held up pretty well. So now we're going to move over here and talk about this gas tank. For the gas tank skid plate, we've landed on this thing pretty hard. You could, if you were at my angle, you could see there's some deformation to this gas tank skid plate. It's got a little bit of a bow to it. We've been clearancing the system a little bit. Really, though, it's held up. We got some big gouges and some big dents. I mean, really, for what we've done to it, you can't complain, right? It's done its job. It's saved everything. Nothing else on the vehicle got damaged. I mean, Metalcloak did a heck of a nice job. It's a nice skid plate. It really just, it did its job. It did it effectively. It did it well. We've got a lot of damage as far as like scratches, gouges, and just imagine if you didn't have that. Like if you didn't have these skid plates, you would have done a lot of damage. I appreciate Metalcloak. They did a heck of a good job. They saved us from being stranded somewhere with a broken exhaust or broken, oil pan or something like that. But yeah, thanks Metalcloak. Nice stuff.
Let's tear this place apart! Yeah!
All right, so we've got the Metalcloak skid plate removed. So one of the differences between the Metalcloak and Rusty's skid plate, we'll go over that a little bit more in depth here in a second, is that the Metalcloak goes over the stock skid plate. Rusty's replaces the stock skid plate. So we're gonna have to drop this whole entire tank down and get the stock skid plate removed from the tank so that way we can put the Rusty system in. We'll go over that a little bit more in detail and show you why they did it that way. But we gotta drop this tank down, and that's the next step.